Hey guys, it's me, Rich. You're about to watch a sitting mayor use the machinery of city government to track down the names of private citizens for the unforgivable sin of thinking about doing business with a federal law enforcement agency. In Boston, Michelle Wu's administration is filing public records requests to find out which property owners might lease parking spaces to ICE. And her office has already told you on the record exactly what happens to those names next. But on the other hand, the Department of Homeland Security isn't exactly sitting back and taking it quietly. Let's get into it. All right, guys, welcome back to RPW Media, where we are MAGA first, conservative second, Republican third, with the goal of bringing you the most honest news coverage of the day. Look, if you're new, like, subscribe, and comment. And thank you. All right, let's talk about Boston. Amy Curtis of Town Hall wrote a great piece headline, "Is Boston's mayor really targeting businesses and property owners that helped ICE?" Well, it's apparently true. Specifically, let's talk about the mayor of Boston, a woman named Michelle Wu, who has apparently decided that her most pressing municipal duty this week is figuring out which parking garage owners might be willing to rent space to federal immigration officers. Here's Wu in her own words, speaking on the record. Give us a watch.
Let's talk about ICE. They have been trying to lease nearly 250 parking spaces in the city of Boston. You've gone on record strongly opposing any expansion of their offices. It's really unclear if they're expanding right now. Have you heard any more about their efforts to expand, if they exist?
We haven't had direct communication from them, but this is not a surprise because even when we've asked for specific information, it's been difficult or impossible to get it.
I wonder how long it takes for a Boston FOIA request to receive a response. I'll bet not one of these news people would dare ask her that.
As I understand, this was part of an open process to start laying the groundwork for potential procurement or what's called an RFP to actually get parking spots. So it seems like this is an early precursor step. We, as a city, will be filing another FOIA request for any responses that have come in from the Boston area so that we know what information they may be sifting through. We strongly oppose any expansion of their efforts here and would encourage and will be reaching out to property owners to try to make sure that they're not adding to a surge of unlawful and dangerous activity.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Is Wu going to propose struggle sessions next? She just said that she doesn't want them doing business with illegal people, meaning ICE. She's talking about ICE. I want you to sit with that for a second, guys, because it sounds like a joke, but it's not a joke. Guys, think about it. Somewhere in Boston right now, there is a list being compiled. And if your name ends up on it, the mayor's office has already told you exactly what they intend to do about it. Here's what's actually happening. ICE has been putting out feelers, an early stage procurement process, essentially a request for information to see which private property owners in the Boston area might be interested in leasing parking spots. Gosh, they own private properties that are parking lots. What are they going to do with them? Totally normal government stuff, right? Agencies need places to park vehicles. They ask around, landlords respond, or they don't. But Michelle Wu's administration got wind of this. And instead of shrugging it off the way any reasonable person would, they decided to file a Freedom of Information Act request. Not to find out about ICE's operations, not to find out about federal policy, to find out the names of the private businesses and property owners in her city who might respond to ICE. And once City Hall has those names, well, that's when things get interesting. Wu just told you on camera exactly what her plan is. Step 1, get the names of anyone who might lease to ICE. Step 2, reach out to those property owners personally. Step 3, discourage them. Her word is ensure from cooperating with a federal agency. Guys, that's not oversight. It's not transparency either. That is a mayor's office identifying private citizens who might do something the mayor doesn't like and then applying pressure to make sure that they don't do it. Holy crap. Is Boston still a part of the United States? What would you call that if it happened in literally any other context? If a mayor filed records requests to find out which businesses were donating to a political campaign she disliked, and then had her staff call those businesses to talk them out of it, you would call that intimidation. You wouldn't hesitate for a second. The only reason this gets a pass in certain corners of the media is because the target here is ICE, and ICE is politically unpopular in deep blue cities right now. Guys, how is this any different from the kind of lunatic policies that the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America, are trying to push on the country right now? How's it any different? The Democrats are taking the side of violent, criminal, illegal aliens who came here illegally, who do not belong here, and who harmed Americans. I mean, the DSA is saying they want to get rid of the Constitution and they want to get rid of the DOJ. So aren't you doing the same exact thing by saying you want to get rid of ICE, the agency that is responsible for protecting your own communities? It's unbelievable. How come no one in the news who talks to one of these idiots has ever asked them, well, what about your real constituents? You know, not that 10% extra chromosome DSA loving, boot-licking sycophants of the Democratic Party, but your real constituents, the ones who pay taxes. So you get paid and you get to spend all of their money. How come you never worry about them? How come they never ask them? They never ask. How come you come up with all kinds of excuses to stop ICE from coming into your communities to do you a favor by getting rid of violent, illegal aliens who don't belong there and who have harmed your constituents? You come with all kinds of things saying that ICE is breaking the law when you know they're not. You people gripe and complain about ICE wearing masks over their faces, even though every one of you blue cities that have a SWAT team, you know that they do the same exact thing. And it's to protect their families from being attacked by your street army thugs, from doxing them and going to their homes and harassing their families. Why is it that you clowns always keep taking the sides of criminals? DHS, to its credit, was not subtle about its response. The department posted on X, and I'm quoting directly here, "These actions by Sanctuary Mayor Michelle Wu are unhinged. She knows she has no authority to block us from using private property. So she's hunting down private property owners and threatening them for working with ICE because she'd rather intimidate law-abiding Bostonians than get criminal illegals off the street." Guys, help me out here. What does this sound like to you? Michelle Wu is using the power of City Hall to hunt down private businesses simply because they're willing to lease parking spaces to ICE. These businesses aren't accused of breaking the law. They're providing parking to a federal law enforcement agency, yet Wu wants to identify them, contact them, and pressure them to stop. That sounds less like normal city government and more like the kind of political intimidation you expect when government decides private businesses must fall in line with its ideology. Guys, the irony is so thick here, you could cut it with a knife. The Democrats are angry that ICE agents are going after violent, criminal, illegal aliens to protect Wu's community. And she's trying to stop them from doing that. Wu is going after not criminals. She's not going after illegal aliens. These are landlords, garage owners, private businesses who serve her city. People who own parking lots and are weighing whether to enter into a lease agreement, a completely legal, completely mundane business transaction with a federal agency. And the mayor of a major American city has decided that finding out who they are and talking them out of it is worthwhile use of her office's time and resources. This is alternative universe time. Which brings us to the actual question nobody in the Boston press corps seems interested in asking. Whatever happened to the Supremacy Clause? ICE is a federal agency. It exists to enforce federal immigration law. That law does not stop being the law because a mayor personally has a mental disorder, TDS, and finds it distasteful. A city government does not get veto power over a federal law enforcement just because the person running that city disagrees with the administration currently enforcing it. That's not how any of this works. And it hasn't been how it works since roughly 1789. And let's not forget that the Supremacy Clause is working here because the federal government has sole authority on immigration law. Article 1, Section 8, known as the enumerated powers. Go look it up. It says that the Congress, meaning the federal government in this case, has the power to create an uniform rule of naturalization. All of these sanctuary cities are unconstitutional. They don't have the power to create any law on immigration. So how come no one in the media are asking Democrats these important questions? Now, look, Michelle Wu is entitled to her opinion on immigration enforcement. She can go on television and criticize ICE all day long if that's what she wants to do. Nobody's stopping her. It's called politics, and it's protected speech, and conservatives should defend her right to say it just as loudly and stupidly as we would defend our own. But there is a very real difference between criticizing a federal agency and using the coercive power and force of city government to track down and pressure private citizens who are simply considering a legal business arrangement. This is crazy. This is DSA commie area. One of those is democracy. The other is intimidation dressed up in the language of records requests and procedure processes. Americans ought to be able to count on this. The federal law can actually be enforced without businesses who cooperate getting hunted down by a local politician's office for doing so. It's not a radical idea. That's just the bare minimum of how a functioning country is supposed to operate. So here's the bottom line. Boston's mayor got caught on the record laying out a plan to identify and pressure private citizens over a legal business decision, and DHS called it exactly what it is. That's not a great look for Michelle Wu, no matter how she tries to spin it in her own interview. But here's the upside. This is exactly the kind of overreach that tends to backfire in the long run. Sunlight always has a way of doing that. And the more Boston City Hall insists on picking fights with federal law enforcement in public, the more Americans outside of Beacon Hill bubble are going to see clearly what's actually going on here. So tell me what you think about this in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.